Val Davies. I'm a tech reporter, and I'm really excited and honored to be here today for the forthcoming events that we have coming up on this stage. The summit brings together some of the brightest minds in AI who you're going to see today, who are going to discuss how we can harness this technology to meet and advance sustainable development goals. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers who are going to share their insights on groundbreaking AI. Each session on this Frontier stage is going to delve into the practical applications of AI, robotics and brain-machine interfaces, and their potential to address some of the world's most biggest challenges. So first up, let's kick things off. I'm really excited for this session. And let's talk about health tech and the frontiers of neurotech specifically. So this session will be moderated by Saurabh Bhaskar, who's the Adjunct Research Professor at Western University. And we will also have with us Tracy Brandmeyer, who's the Chief Scientific Officer at BrainMind, Ramses Alcaide, CEO of Neurable, and María López Valdés, the CEO and co-founder of Bitbrain. So over to you.
Testing, testing. All right.
Checking. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So for this session on the frontiers in personal neurotech. So I'm Dr. Saurabh Shah. I'm a translational neuroscientist, and I've got an adjunct faculty position at Western. I'm also the co-founder of PropelFocus that I'll be briefly talking about today. So we'll start things off by, thank you, briefly talking about how us as humans think and do everyday tasks. We kind of do this process of thinking of ourselves internally, maybe a vacation you had at the beach, or thinking of the work that you have to do, and you say, oh no, I need to do my work again. So you kind of switch between your working processes and thinking of yourself. And this kind of switching happens pretty seamlessly. You don't consciously think of it. And if you look underneath the hood, we see that a lot of it is driven by some of these brain networks that are very tightly connected and they synchronize together. It's like a ballet happening in your brain to accomplish all of these natural, effortless switching. So what happens when we have issues with switching or these networks? We see that a lot in psychopathologies like PTSD, ADHD, and some of my most recent work shows that these kind of networks are very different in people with PTSD. So this is a recent study we published in Nature Mental Health, where you can see that the two different subtypes of PTSD, the regular PTSD on the left and the dissociative subtype on the right, have very different connectivity patterns. Treatments cannot be the same for both of them because of how different they are. The way they respond is different. Detecting this clinically would be immensely useful in trauma treatment, helping our society, especially what's happening with increasing war everywhere, refugees, they all suffer from this. So how do we go about doing this? So this requires fMRI data, which, as you can imagine, is very expensive, very slow to collect. And what we can do, though, with all of this information is we could identify that all the dissociative subtype, the part of PTSD that you saw on the right, a lot of it can be explained by childhood trauma. And I think this is one of the first few convincing pieces of evidence that we can show, conclusively linking trauma to those brain network changes that we saw. So how do we actually use it in clinic? We can't send everyone to an MRI machine every time they come in saying, they have issues with sleep and they might have PTSD. So we switched over to EEG. We wanted to use EEG, which is a very easy to use, much cheaper modality. Just look at electrical activity on your head to look at the same level of network activity that we could get from fMRI. So this is another piece of work that that I performed, where what we did is we learned AI models to predict network activity, fMRI network activity, but with EEG only. And you can see on the right with the different colored dots that are clearly separated that we can easily identify the different networks and tell when they are and how they are. This was imperative to be able to bring this kind of biomarkers to the clinic and to do this kind of work. So what can we do with once we can identify this kind of markers in EEG? So here's a video of what we can do. So this is an example of therapy that we've built where you provide neurofeedback. So this is using the Muse headset, where the person has a EEG system on their head, and they're trying to keep the flame centered with their brain activity. And it's like learning to ride a bike. Initially, it'll be hard, so you can see that it's a little hard to kind of balance it. But once you're able to balance it, you get some nice feedback. The marshmallow is getting roasted and it's getting happy. So what happens is as the person learns to do this, they learn to control certain brain activities, certain patterns, and the therapist can control what that is. And that leads to a much deeper sense of connection with their own body, and they can start understanding how things work. We found that this kind of a therapy led to a 36% reduction in PTSD symptom severity in an RCT we ran, and it was phenomenal to see this kind of numbers. But then we wanted to bring it to the society sectors that need it the most. Indigenous communities in Canada, for example, have a lot of intergenerational trauma. So we brought this kind of an accessible neurofeedback therapy there. And you can see there's a lot of changes you can see on the right in the blue little band. And also, we learned how they think about trauma healing and recovery. They think of the ocean as an interconnectedness because they live on the sea, which is very different from the Western style of thinking. And it's very important to learn from them and provide this kind of therapy that's customized to their style of thinking. And at the end, I'm going to wrap up with PropelFocus. So this is a system that we've built to assist people with ADHD that have issues just being productive and working in everyday life, despite their many therapies and drugs that they're taking. And the whole idea behind this is that it helps you identify priorities, measures focus, and optimizes your schedules based on patterns it has learned from it, and then it helps you perform better and increase task completion rate. So here's a quick demo of how this works. You just install it on your browser. You can start a session when you're ready to work on it. It uses computer vision and AI tracking, and it uses a software we've built that predicts a lot of the focus metrics, but with computer vision. It takes a short subjective measurement of the focus and gives you what focus score it has measured. It's got some metrics on looking at monthly trends, and best of all, how did you perform against your friends? So you got some bragging rights. So that's my talk, and would be happy to meet with everyone and talk more about it. So next up, we've got Dr. Tracy Brandmeyer, who's a neuroscientist and serves as the Chief Scientific Officer at BrainMind, Chief Technology Officer at Cognigenics, and is an adjunct professor at the Institute of Neural Computation at UC San Diego.
It's great. Hi, thanks so much for having me here today. It's an honor to be with you all. My name is Dr. Tracy Brandmeyer, and today I'll talk briefly about the ways in which BrainMind is catalyzing responsible advancement of personalized neurotechnology for the benefit of humanity. Thank you. As a neuroscientist, my prior career has focused on the neurophenomenological study of meditation with the goal of establishing the groundwork for neurotechnological applications to improve mental health and cognitive performance. Today, as the Chief Science Officer at BrainMind, I have the privilege to be at the forefront of neurotechnology advancements. BrainMind is a private ecosystem bringing together the world's leading neuroscientists, technologists, ethicists, entrepreneurs, investors, and philanthropists to rapidly accelerate and responsibly scale neurotech breakthroughs. One of our key areas of focus is personalized neurotechnology for mental health and wellness. Our diverse multi-sector ecosystem includes many of the neurotech companies here at the summit, as well as in this session. We identify breakthrough technologies and essentially help to support their translation through what we call the funding valley of death to successful commercialization to real-world products that improve people's lives. Importantly, we firmly believe that responsible technology development will help align stakeholders around core ethical principles, and we help to do this by providing resources to startups that embed neuroethics into the foundation of their companies. We have achieved this through our Responsible Innovation Initiative, which was developed in collaboration with incredible neuroethicist advisors, including groups like the OECD, the European Brain Project, the US Brain, and the US Brain Initiative. And this helps companies to integrate ethical recommendations and core values such as agency, privacy, access, and protection against dual use. An example of how we catalyze these forms of responsible translational innovation is Sanmai Technologies. Two active members of our ecosystem, Jay Sanguinetti and Tim Mullen, came together to realize the potential of using focused transcranial ultrasound neuromodulation for mental health and human flourishing. They formed a public benefit corp, and investors within our ecosystem put capital using innovative financing structures. Essentially, this blends venture capital funding with non-dilutive funding that was aligned with Sanmai's public good mission. Sanmai is now is pursuing promising clinical trials for the treatment of mental health and depression. Another example of this is eDune Technologies. This is a Swiss-based inner ear EEG company building technologies to monitor sleep, mental workload, and steering brain-computer interfaces. This has also many applications in wellness. They're generating large amounts of data, and they really needed help with how to store this data ethically. They're a venture-backed company, and so typically these types of companies can't invest resources into ethical development. So this is where we get involved. BrainMind found ethicists for them to work with, and we actually sourced funding to embed an ethicist into their company with the agreement that they actually publish any practical neuroethics tools that they create so other startup companies can use them. And this way we can build more ethical companies across the board. We bring the best of the best together at our annual summits at places like Stanford, UCSF, and MIT, and our salons that we host throughout the year. It's a super high concentration of intelligence and resources. Membership in BrainMind is free, but this is a very action-oriented community. If you're an investor, you're expected to make an investment. If you're an entrepreneur, you're expected to build. And we pick the very best innovators to be on our stage. So whether you're building a startup, investing in neurotech, or supporting responsible innovation through philanthropy, if you'd like to get involved with BrainMind, please find me or reach out to us at brainmind.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Dr. María López Valdés, who's the CEO and co-founder of Bitbrain. It's a leading neurotechnology company in the development of advanced brain monitoring equipment and brain-computer interfaces for scientific research and health. Over to you, María.
Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to take the opportunity to talk about neurological disorders, diseases such as stroke, dementia, epilepsy, which are major global health problems. 43% of the global population will develop some neurological disorder during their lifetime. Taking this number to this audience, this means that you or the person next to you have a high probability to develop a brain disorder. And it's serious because they are the first cause of disability worldwide and the second cause of mortality. Due to these facts, there are several global commitments and resolutions to fight against brain disorders. And of course, several UN goals are related to them. However, nowadays, most neurological disorders do not have cure, and most patients do not have access to a basic brain screening for diagnosis. The good news is by combining AI with neurotechnology, researchers all around the world are discovering new biomarkers for a better diagnosis and even predictions, and also promising new treatments. Moreover, thanks to AI, we can reduce the number of sensors to obtain the same results with more affordable and accessible medical devices. And this is exactly what we have been doing at Bitbrain. We have developed Elevvo, that is a neurohead platform composed by a hardware, a neuroheadband that is very reliable. In fact, it's designed under the medical regulation, and it's affordable. And it's so easy to use that even a child can handle it.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and I have 12 years old. I'm going to show you how I put my Neuro headband. First, I put this part in the front. Now, I put the ears between the ear flap. Now I'm going to wait till the green lights. And that's all.
Okay, and this is a medical grade device. So, but still, hardware alone is not enough. So we have also developed a software platform with AI algorithms in the cloud for automatic diagnosis. For instance, we are working with sleep, and also for personalized treatments. We are working right now with dementia. I really believe that these kind of solutions will provide us global health access for anybody, anywhere, and anytime. But still more research, collaborations, and learnings are needed. And this is how Bitbrain has reached this point. This is Bitbrain.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Maria. Next up, we've got Dr. Ramses Alcaide. He's the CEO of Neurable, where they are hyper-focused on making brain-computer interfaces an everyday device. Neurable leverages 10 years of research and development of AI, signal processing, to make EEG work like a product and not science fair projects. So, over to you, Ramses.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Great to have you all here. I'm going to be sitting down because my laptop actually has my presentation. Because today we're going to do a live demo. How awesome is that, right? The problem with brain-computer interfaces is that they're so unreliable, it's hard to do live demos. But our technology works so robustly that I'm going to be showing you some really cool stuff up here. So, as was covered in the last presentation, there's a huge issue happening right now when it comes to mental health and understanding the brain. It's crazy to think that half of the people here might end up with a neurological disorder, right? And I'm sure we can all know somebody who, for example, has had Alzheimer's or Parkinson's in their life before, right? And what's crazy about these diseases, and you know, it actually bothers me a ton, is that you don't even know that they have these diseases until 10 years into them, right? That's terrible. Like not knowing until it's too late, right? There's also huge issues happening with PTSD with soldiers, burnout that's occurring with students. And the issue that we have isn't that we don't have the tools to better understand the brain, it's that right now, this is the tools that we have. We have these we have these laboratory grade systems that provide fairly high quality data, but they look like that, right? These giant nets with pins everywhere, essentially kind of like a torture device. And then we have these consumer grade systems, and the problem there is that the signal to noise is just terrible. That means that you're recording brain activity, but it's just so bad, you can't do anything with it. So what we did at the University of Michigan is we developed a signal processing AI in 2011. We spent the last over 10 years building that system, collecting close to 7,000 people worth of data, gathering about 30 plus patents in the area in order to increase the signal of brain data that you can do. And a recent paper has demonstrated that we're able to get about 90% of the same signal source as these large cap systems with an everyday device. And this everyday device is actually right here. It's a pair of headphones, right? On the inside, you're going to see these little lines. And don't worry about taking pictures. We're going to pass them around in just a second. But these lines actually record your brain activity. And then using AI, we're able to boost the signal and get it to work like a very reliable system. So Adam here, my co-founder, if you could just wave your hand. He's going to be passing around a headset after my demo. That way you're paying attention to my demo. But essentially, we're going to be doing something that tracks focus and attention. Now, if you want to track focus and attention, you normally need a band of electrodes on your forehead, right? And then if you want to be able to track that focus and attention in real time, you also want a central hub of electrodes here on top of your head. We're going to be doing it all with a pair of headphones. So give me 1 second while I set it up. And that's the setup process. You just put it on like a normal pair of headphones. I have a little bit longer hair for a guy, so I had to move the hair out of the way, but that's essentially it. You're done. You're set up. So what you're going to see here on the screen is you're going to see a graph pop out on your left-hand side, and that's going to be my focus and attention. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on some numbers that are on the screen. And the more I focus, the line is going to go up, and then when I relax, the line is going to go down. Okay, you can see the line going down as I get distracted. Now I'm going to start focusing on these numbers. I'm just going to start saying them in my head. And you can see that the line goes up, and then I'll just relax. And you'll see that the line goes down. Really clean, crisp brain activity representing my focus. Just to show you it's not a random fluke, I'll do it one more time. I'm going to start focusing again. And you can see, bam, shoots right up. So easy that we actually have a booth, 37, right around the corner, where you can try it yourself. And what's really cool is we'll even have you read about the best headphones of 2024, which are the ones that I'm wearing. And you can actually see how ads impact your ability to focus and get distracted. All of that is going to happen essentially in real time. But there's a lot of practical applications to this as well, too. For example, we've collected, like I said, close to 7,000 people worth of data. And what we found is this weird anomaly where about 15% of them responded differently to reading tasks. Turns out that those individuals had ADHD. So to your left here, you'll see somebody doing a reading task that is neurotypical, doesn't have ADHD. You'll see a line normally fairly high, representing a high focus score. Then you see this drop happening in the center. That was the person getting tired. We told them to take a break, and then from that break, they then came back and were able to maintain that focus fairly high. But you can see somebody with ADHD handled reading completely different, right? And all of this from an everyday device. And so there's so many incredible medical applications that we can do once brain sensors are available at scale. And the coolest part about this is we actually work with existing companies. So this isn't actually our product. This is done by Master and Dynamic. They're a New York-based headphone company. But we're working with other headphone providers as well, too. And you're going to be able to get access to your insights of your brain directly on your phone as just a consumer application to track your focus, to understand when you need to take breaks, and to eventually also get feedback on key neuroanalytics that are going to be important to your brain longevity. And that's going to be incredibly revolutionary for the entire neurotech space. So, with that, I'd like to thank all of you so much for your time, and I look forward to your questions. If you could leave this up just for a little bit so that everyone can get this QR code. But looking forward to speaking to you all.
Thank you, Ramses. So we're going to have time for maybe a question or two. I think everyone here has done a lot of good work in the democratization of neurotechnologies. Neurotechnology has been around some 100 years with the advent of EEG, but despite the long history, most of the people that end up using the devices are clinicians or researchers in labs. And because of that, a lot of the research done is locked away in papers. People that can benefit from it don't actually end up benefiting from it. So democratization of this kind of technology is a great deal that everyone's doing here. So how do you see your company kind of fitting in with this democratization of neurotechnology? This is going to give everyone a chance to talk about it. So why don't you start off with Ramses?
Yeah, I mean, for us, democratizing the incredible technology that's been in labs and bringing it out to the masses, that's our ethos. Like, if you can't feel that in my passion, I don't know what to tell you. But that is literally what we spend every single days of our lives doing. But we think about it from a higher perspective. We think about it from the perspective of what would humans use, right? Humans would use headphones, earbuds, devices that they're already wearing in their heads. What would a soldier use? They would use helmets. So the Army is actually our biggest customer in order to detect traumatic brain injuries in soldiers, right? But once we get that technology developed with the Army, then we can bring that to the consumer as well, too, as simple as a software update, right? So you can imagine that future football helmets, bicycling helmets, even just the earbuds that you wear will be able to detect some of these super key things that we see in neuroscience in laboratories, but now at scale. And so that's really core to everything that is the company. How do we build products for humans that enables this incredible leveraging of the science technology?
Awesome. Maria, you work with researchers and clinicians, and you're working to democratize it for them. Why don't you talk a little bit about how that process is like?
Okay. Look, before we founded the company in 2010, we were researchers at the university working with bulky EEG systems, very complex, with a lot of sensors that required gel and at least 30 minutes for placement. It was really, really frustrating. And of course, with this kind of setup, it was impossible to take the research out of the lab. So when we started Bitbrain, we decided to develop still research-oriented EEG devices, but easier and faster to use, right? And in this way, the researchers could do the research out of the lab. And yes, and now with this kind of technology, that is the Neuro headband, this is also affordable. And maybe some years ago, this kind of device didn't have sense because it has very few sensors. But today, thanks to AI, you can obtain much more information with these devices. This is a medical grade device, and I'm sure that you can do a lot of amazing things out of the lab and to do a lot of research out of the lab, and then the next step is society, of course.
That's great. I think that's a really key point of how much time it takes to set up. As working with clinicians with PTSD, we found that people with PTSD tolerate very little the large setups and makes them claustrophobic. It adds to their trauma, whereas systems like yours that we use routinely helped a lot. And also, the everyday products like yours were critical for democratizing our research to indigenous populations who can't afford full-scale medical-grade EEG systems. So because their signal quality is so close to really good lab EEG systems, we're able to do a lot of this stuff and help bring AI for good into society. So that is awesome. And then that brings me to the next question for Tracy, that the ethical implications of being able to democratize this to underrepresented populations, like indigenous populations, minorities and such, is immense. So why don't you give a little insight on how that space is navigated?
The ethical implementation within diverse communities.
Absolutely,
sure, I
yeah.
think it's for everyone, right? I mean, the ethics is really, the privacy and protection of brain data is absolutely central, I think, to the successful scaling of neurotechnologies. Similarly, I mean, to some of your point, like form factor is huge, right? Like if we are not developing a diverse ecosystem, and another piece here is also there being many neurotechnology companies. There's a huge funding fall-off, right? There's a lot of early-stage neurotech companies and very few successful later-stage neurotechnology companies. So that's kind of where BrainMind gets involved, at least in terms of trying to help buffer that, that valley of death, if you will, where we drop off, because in truth, until we have a large number of neurotech companies developing form factors that are wearable, the price point's going to still stay high. So it's really about having lots of diversity, bring the price point down, having a variety of different form factors that can be adopted by different people for different preferences. And then certainly in terms of the ethics, I think that's where we have to somehow figure out how to incentivize technology companies to bring ethics into the core development of their companies. I think that's really the kind of problem that we're facing right now, is not really knowing how to make that incentive for companies to take the time to look at the ethics and find what the right ways are to protect their data. So I think, anyone developing a neurotech company should really consider working with an ethicist right out the gate.
That's an awesome, very important point. I think that's critical as neuroscientists, as researchers, as engineers. We're not trained in neuroethics, but we are in ever increasing need of them, and to kind of build that stuff out. That's awesome. As you talked about form factors as well, we had a participant once that was using a lab-grade EEG system, but they had dreadlocks. And because of that, we couldn't use the system, and they were quite visibly frustrated because of that. But a system like Ramses has on the table here, Neurable, they go on the ears, so they could have used this no problem. If we had this 5 years ago, that would have been amazing. So I'm very excited by everything that has been developed, the democratization of technology, form factors, signal quality that everyone's working towards, neuroethics, that is very important. And as we're seeing that a lot of this can be applied towards society, towards trauma, towards ADHD, people that can live longer, healthier lives, and the impact of negative events around the world can be minimized. Something that the UN and the ITU can be a massive partner in. So very excited to be here and present on this, and I thank all the presenters for their time and all of your time for listening. Thank you so much.